If I were to describe Zebek in 3 words, I would say in my perspective, this is nice. Now, even though nothing I say is financial advice, and even though I'll discuss the idea of maybe 10 cents later on in the video, I want to first explain why. Again, I think this is nice. It's because if I take a look at it, part of their family of companies when it comes to Zebek is something called PayBridge. Now, people may be thinking, okay, what is that? Now, supposedly, PayBridge is a leader in payroll and human capital management solutions and processes over $300 million in payroll volume annually. So again, over 300 million in payroll volume annually. That is very impressive. And again, it's part of their, family of companies, supposedly, at least from what I can see, from Zebek, right? And I think this is really impressive because it showcases how the project is being taken seriously. And I do think they're taking payrolls very seriously because, again, sometimes you like to say, oh, Zebek doesn't really care and all this type of stuff. Well, I take a look at something like PayBridge. I think that would probably, kind of counter that argument and say, you know what, probably it is being taken seriously. Now, when I take a look at Zebek as well, something that oftentimes a lot of people like to tell me is that the cards, they're just not that cool, they're not that interesting because they like to say that so many projects out there have cards. But I think just because so many projects out there have cards, even meme coins, a lot of them that I do see, I think as a result of that, it kind of dilutes that, right? It kind of dilutes being focused on cards. And when people take a look at something like Zebek, which is actually taking it seriously, a lot of them are like, yeah, they're probably not taking it seriously because other projects out there, I feel like they're just doing it just for the sake of having cards and just for the sake of saying, yeah, we have cards. But then at the same time, this one doesn't feel like that because the Zebek cards supposedly are accepted at over 60 million merchants worldwide. I mean, that's very impressive. Over 60 million. But even besides that as well, when it comes to Zebek cards, we already kind of know that they are powered by MasterCard. But even besides that as well, it supposedly supports many blockchains, like even Stellar, for instance, right? And Stellar, of course, very popular. We take a look at even the BNB Smart Chain, Solana, the Base Network, which is Coinbase's layer 2. Just very impressive overall. And again, Zebek, unlike some other projects out there, which I feel are not being taken, their card sort of aspect seriously, this is actually taking it very seriously. It's putting a whole new meaning, I think, to being having a focus on cards because for quite a while it's already been kind of diluted where people don't really care about that anymore. But now Zebek is kind of, I think, reinvigorating that aspect. That's the way I take a look at it. But even besides that as well, people like to say, okay, when it comes to Zebek, they also acquired something called GateKnox, which is focused on compliance and also on top of that, supposedly focused on AI-powered KYC, which stands for Know Your Customer, but again, focused on AI-powered KYC for Web3. Now, people may be thinking, okay, who cares about that? Well, we have to think about how, supposedly, according to Mordor Intelligence, the KYC market is predicted to reach nearly $14.5 billion by 2030. So that's very impressive. Again, Zebek, it's being focused on a lot of things, right? Like payments, global trade finance, AI-based PayFi. We take a look at something like compliance, for instance. We take a look at also RWAs, or should I say real-world assets. It's focused on payrolls, focused on the cards. But I like it because there's more avenues to hypothetical maybe success. You know what I mean? If they're only focused on one thing and one thing only, if that doesn't really work out, who knows what might happen? Maybe it's going to work out, right? Who knows? But then at least they're well diversified, in my opinion, in terms of what they're focused on. Not to mention as well, when it comes to Zebek, at least supposedly when it comes to ZBCN, over 80,000 holders currently, which is very impressive. And supposedly one of those holders is something called Circle, which is the creator of USDC, the stablecoin. And not only that, they hold supposedly a big amount of ZBCN. So that's very impressive. Again, Circle, creator of USDC, even they're publicly listed as well. That's very amazing. And I think Zebek overall just gives me this kind of vibe of more so of this stable kind of project because it just doesn't feel like it is a project that is, focused on random things that don't really make sense sometimes. It just kind of feels like they seem to know where they're heading, and it seems to be kind of the right direction, in my opinion, fundamentally. Even though I've mentioned in some of my previous videos how usually altcoins, typically as a worst case scenario, historically speaking, usually, again, they peak as a worst case scenario around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. And the last Bitcoin halving event was in April of last year, in 2024. So 18 months on top of that. is actually October this year. And granted, we're already in October. Soon it's going to be November. And people may be thinking, okay, where's the altcoin season? Now, that's just based off history. This time around, only time will tell. It could be different, and things actually are pretty different as of right now compared to before. So if, let's say, the altcoin season has to wait, if it ever even wants to happen, by the way, because I can't demand it to happen, it's going to happen if it wants to. If it doesn't want to, I can't force it to happen. That's not what I'm able to do. The only thing I can do is just stay patient. So whether or not there's an altcoin season, be it maybe it starts next month or in December, or let's say in January, in February, or even March of 2026, I mean, that's beyond my control. Like, I can't control that. The only thing I can do is control myself. But ultimately, when I take a look at what ZBCN is doing, when I take a look at their partnerships, and just again, overall, the vibe of the project, I can at least look forward to that. Price-wise, right, in terms of the price, I can't control that. The only thing I can do is just control myself. But nonetheless, why wouldn't 10 cents, if it ever even maybe happened, why wouldn't that surprise me? It's because at a market cap of around 9 billion, considering current circulating supply and 10 cents being around the 24x from here, keep in mind, right, not too long ago, ZBCN going to 10 cents was around 11x from here. And some people out there think that even 10 cents is a little bit too bearish, actually. A lot of people think that that is too kind of low of a bar to think about when it comes to ZBCN. But personally, for me, I don't view it that way, because I think reaching a $9 billion market cap, even though we've seen XRP not too long ago reach around 200 billion, even despite altcoin season, even despite that, I still think 9 billion is a pretty substantial amount in the grand scheme of things. Sure, at one point ZBCN was around 11x from there, but still, I think it is kind of this range where it doesn't feel too outlandish, but it doesn't feel too small either. And again, it doesn't mean it will happen. I cannot control that by any means. I can only just stay patient. Literally, that's it. But just seeing that market cap and seeing that price, if that maybe even were to happen, it just doesn't seem that ridiculous to me. And maybe 10 cents could very well be too low. During an altcoin season, things could, in theory, do better than expected. We've seen that from, certain cases. Like, for instance, a lot of people thought that, oh, Bitcoin, if it ever had a rally again, max, it's going to probably go to 80 or 90 grand. But even right now, it's well beyond 100 grand. Only time will tell. However, I'm just staying patient and I'm just waiting, and that's pretty much about it. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you all have a nice day, and I want to say thank you for watching this video. It's Malik the Captain, and I'll catch you all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.